So good afternoon to all. So today's lecture is on cognitive process. This is a lecture for psychology for the course BSc Nursing first year. So we have to understand first what is the cognition. The cognition is mental action or process of acquiring knowledge and understanding through thought, experience and the senses. So we have various mental faculties. The cognition is not a structural thing of the brain, it is a concept, and the mental faculty which works with by virtue of perception, attention, thought and all the thing like imagination, intelligence and so on. These are the cognition, these are the mental faculties, these are the higher mental functions. So cognitive process use existing knowledge to discover new knowledge. So like we have digits which works in a different manner, and to uh, come to a conclusion or to form a single thing which can be considered as the mental faculties, different mental faculties which are working to make a one concept. So objective of this lecture will be to know how the process of attention takes place, the phenomena of perception, the Gestalt principles of the phenomena of perception, process of learning, concept and models of memory, phenomena of thinking. So we will learn about all these processes in this lecture. So first start with attention. So attention in Hindi is dhyan dena. So Ross defined it as the process of getting an object or thought clearly before the mind. If you give attention to some subject, you will make a picture of it or make a uh, image of it in front of mind. So it is attention. In other definition, attention is focusing of consciousness on a particular object. So when you become conscious and start giving attention to some particular object or some processes or some ideas or some imageries, then this is attention in second form. So broadly we have four forms of attention. One is selective, then divided, then sustained, then executive. So we will learn about all these different forms of attention. So selective attention is when you start giving attention to a selective subject by ruling out or by masking the other stimuli which is present in the environment. For example, in an examination paper there are 10 questions, and when you start focusing on one question, then all the other questions are masked. The knowledge of those questions are masked or hidden by the mental process. So the divided attention is at one point of time you are giving attention to two or more subjects. You know, so two or more subjects. So divided attention is like multitasking, tasking on one or more subjects at the same time. Executive attention. The executive attention is blocking out the unimportant features of the environment. This is not the multitasking. You are giving attention to various stimuli in the environment which is important to consider a task or to accomplish a task. So if for example, if you are making a sculpture from a garbage, you have an idea in your mind and you want to make out something from that garbage. So the idea you have in your mind will think of the important thing which is needed for that sculpture. So this is executive attention. What is sustained attention? Sustained attention is simply concentration. When you become attentive towards a subject, then your attention is now sustained. Now you are continuously giving attention to the subject matter. So it becomes the concentration. Now coming to the perception. Perception means So it helps us in understanding the world around us, and the perception is a process of selecting, organizing, and interpreting the sensory information. What the sensory information you have by virtue of your sense organs like eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. So you acquire the knowledge. So the acquiring knowledge, the selection of knowledge becomes the attended stimulus. Then you organize those stimulus in a concept or in a meaningful pattern. Then now you interpret those uh, stimulus, the thing you have which you have organized. Then you interpret by meaning of your experiences, expectations, your needs and beliefs and other factors. So there are gestalt principles in understanding the perception. A perception can be in the various forms. Gestalt means form or configuration. So we can learn about the laws of organization as per the Gestalt principle. Gestalt means form or configuration. Now we will see what are those principles in the Gestalt. This is a figure ground relationship. You will focus on the one aspect. You will see two faces, which is the background of actual picture. If you focus in the middle of the picture, you will find out there are the uh, chess pieces. So when you focus in the middle, there is another different picture, and when you focus on the sides, there is another picture. So this is figure ground relationship. Law of proximity. Proximity means pass होना. When two or more objects are in the proximal situation, then one can perceive them as a one figure, like a cluster or group. So brain tends to group large element as one to make us interpret more easily. So in this picture you can see 9 circles are grouped together and 6 are grouped in the other side. So one can figure out that these 9 circles are a one picture and the 6 are the another picture. Similarly, law of similarity also takes place. Like different colors of balls are grouped together, so one can find the different colors or different shapes or different sizes of the uh, small objects as a one picture. So this is also applied in such situations like in a cricket match. We tend to group players in a one team on the basis of their color of their dress. Laws of continuity or good continuation. Laws of continuity means you see the picture uh, as a line, as if in this picture there are various dots are put together in such a manner one can perceive this picture as a line. Okay. Another is law of closure. Law of closure, it should not be confused with the law of proximity. In law of closure, what happens is a picture is half formed. The silhouette of the picture is not there. This is a broken picture, but it is perceived as a full figure. As you can see in this picture, there is a panda, and this picture does not have all the closed boundaries, but you can perceive it as a whole. Law of common fate. In Gestalt, the stimuli moving in similar direction are perceived as a belonging to the same group. These are not seen as a single fish or single bird. The group is seen as a one picture. Law of Prägnas means good figure. So one can put different objects in a manner that it forms a significant good picture or good figure. So it perceived as a one figure. This may be seen in the sign of Olympics. Now coming to the learning. Learning means how we learn the things uh, by means of yourself, by means of the ideas of others, and how can passively one learn about the environment and react accordingly. So in the definition of learning, it is a relatively permanent change in the behavior resulting from experience. So in this definition, there are three things. First is relatively permanent change. The permanent change may be relative. Okay. The permanent change should not be long lasting or pervasive throughout the life. So relatively permanent change is also a learning. Like for example, feeling sleepy after taking medicine or heavy meal, or feeling tired due to illness. This is learning. This is learning for a shorter period of time, maybe shorter period of time. So this learning is relative. Second is permanent change due to aging or maturation will not be considered as learning. Third is vicarious learning. So learning by others' experiences also comes under the definition of learning. This does not mean only your own experience uh, to teach you the things about. So another person can also teach you. So there are three theories of learning. One is classical conditioning, second is operant conditioning or instrumental conditioning, third is observational. In classical conditioning, we all know about the dog and bell experiment. You can see that when food is produced to the dog, it causes salivation. This is the natural reaction of the unconditioned stimulus, which is the food. Now what was done, that bell was ringed to the dog and dog did not show any kind of reaction, the wanted reaction. In the third phase, bell and food together was produced to the dog and the ringing of the bell was conditioned with the food. After some time, with the repeated experimentation, only the bell was ringed and the dog produced salivation and production of acid in his stomach. So without the unconditioned stimulus, dog started showing the conditioned response. So this is classical conditioning. This has a vast role in our life. In the treatment, we also used to use this phenomena, and this phenomena is also a causative factor for certain behavior. For example, if you had an argument, heated argument with your fellow in certain corner of this college, you may not be become irritable in the other parts of this college, and when you go through and see that place, you will become uh, irritable or agitated because of that conditioning of that place with the heated argument. The another is operant conditioning. So by virtue of classical conditioning, every behavior cannot be taught. For example, if teacher wants good handwriting of the student, so by classical conditioning, this won't happen. This will happen by experimenting the operant conditioning. What is operant conditioning? In operant conditioning, the active member is the on which the experiment is being done. In classical conditioning, the active member was the experimenter who used to produce the food, who used to produce the bell or bell and food together. Now the onus is on the uh, on the uh, on which the experiment is being done. So the learned behavior will increase or decrease. It is also depend on the reinforcement and punishment. So a stimulus in operant conditioning can be positive or can have a positive consequence or negative consequence. Like if I uh, if a teacher gives a paste for good handwriting, and if the student gets the appreciation from the teacher, then he will try to do it uh, more in a better way. If he will get the punishment or negative feedback, then the things may go in the wrong side. So this was the experimental box which was used by the B.F. Skinner. In this box, he kept a mouse and with certain lever and switches. There was two main switches. One is for dispensing the water and one for the food. When the rat when the rat became hungry, then he tried to do the things in the box, and unknowingly he came across through the bar. He unknowingly pressed the bar and the food came from the food dispenser. So after repeated efforts, he get to know that whenever he become hungry, he has to press this bar. So this is instrumental learning. In this experiment, the rat is the active member. The third one is learning by watching others. All we know, this is social learning theory, was given by Albert Bandura. You can learn by the direct observation of the others. You can make role models in your life. You can learn from them, or you can learn indirectly by listening the story of those people, like reading book or some podcast is being on air, or someone else is discussing about the third person. So you can learn about by indirect means also. So this is the pictorial presentation of learning by observation. It also, so in this picture you can see that little girl is imitating uh, her mother or maybe her aunt. What happens in negative parenting? In negative parenting, like the children is ill treated in the family, or the parents are critical, like communication style of the parents are not good. One of the parent may be substance abuser. If the child is treated badly, he used to learn those behavior and inculcate this behavior in his life. When he become adult or in the late teenage, the same parents become worried about the behavior of the child, why he is behaving in a bad manner, but they don't know he learned from the behavior of them only. So this is also observational learning. If the parenting is good, a child will become a sober and more societal person, and maybe reverse of that. Now coming to the memory. Simply the memory is conceptualized in encoding, storage and retrieval. You receive some sensory stimuli, you encode that stimuli, you store that stimuli in your brain, and that memory is retrieved afterwards for maybe for some use. So the models of memory, in models of memory there are two models. The traditional model of memory, which is based basically like an computer. A computer has input, and the input is stored. That stored input can be retrieved afterwards. So there is environmental input by the means of sensory registrations. Sensory registrations can be done by visualization, hearing, olfacting, gustating, and uh, touch, temperature and vibration through the skin. So this memory may be temporary memory. When the stimulus is repeated many a times, then the memory becomes the long term memory or permanent memory. So short term memory, you can compare it with the RAM of the computer, which has a which stores the temporary memory, and the hard disk has a long term memory or permanent memory. The another model is the level of processing model. So this model depends on the level of processing for formation of memory. What is this model is? So this model depends on the three level of processing information. The first is physical attributes of the stimulus. You make in your mind that the object is circular, spherical, cubical, or maybe like that. You give attention to the physical attributes of the stimuli. How it sounds, like hat rhymes with cat. And semantic process. Semantic process is meaning and concept of the stimuli. When you consider these aspects of an object, like physical aspect. Physical aspect means it has said being said that the visual memory is the strongest memory. Therefore, there are lots of pictures and visual figures in your books. So you can memorize more with the picture memory. Rhyme is also a kind of process. It's a phonological process by virtue of which you can memorize more easily and more for a longer period of time. Some students, what they used to do is they learn in a rhyming manner. They don't read the book as such. They read as it as if it is a poem. So they they can memorize more easily. Semantic process means meaning. What is the meaning of that object? If you understand the meaning of that object, you can memorize regarding that object more easily and for longer period of time. Now coming to the thinking. Thinking is explained in two ways. One is problem solving activity and another is mechanism of internal representation of external world. So in the first concept, the thinking is limited to the images, ideas and concepts. What images you make in your mind, what ideas you have in your mind, and what concepts you have in your mind. In another way, it considered as problem solving process. You start thinking of some subject and you tries to solve those problems. So thinking is an active process, it is not passive. If you, for example, if you want to pass anatomy, then you start thinking of reading hours, then you start thinking of eliminating distractions, then you start thinking of arranging the lamp lights to study in the night. So thinking process is a problem solving process. It is a goal directed behavior and it does not occur randomly. There are many forms of thinking which we will discuss. One is perceptual or concrete thinking. Concrete thinking means literal meaning of the stimuli. Like if someone says the black, the person will think of the color black. Some words may have hidden meaning. In concrete thinking, thing is the thing is perceived as जो है सो है. ठीक है, मतलब जो दिख रहा है वही है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल 9 2 11 होना को कॉन्क्रीट थिंकिंग में द पर्सन विल थिंक लाइक 9 + 2 = 11, बट इट हैज ए हिडन मीनिंग, इट हैज अ कोवर्ट मीनिंग. 9 2 11 होना मीन्स भाग जाना. So this bhag jana is abstract thinking. Thinking of concept, symbols or language, like satire and sarcasm. Understanding the satire and sarcasm is a it's a abstract thinking. आंखों में धूल झोंकना, one can have an idea that someone had thrown sand in the eyes of some person, but this idiom does not have this meaning. This means धोखे से या नजरों से बचकर काम करना, ठीक है, आंखों में धूल झोंकना, ठीक है. Reflective thinking is using the past experiences and past knowledge to solve the current problem. So this is for the experience. When a person becomes more and more experienced, it is said that the person is more wiser than the before, because of he has so many of experiences in his life. So for younger people and older people can have a better solution for a problem in their life. Creative thinking is simple. This thinking gives creation, this thinking gives inventions, this thinking gives discoveries. So creative thinking is to create. There are now creative directors also in the movies. Not only the directors are there, the creative directors also are also there. So, critical thinking means to reach to a conclusion by analyzing the things. You have a lot of information available with you, then you analyze those available information, and then you reach to a conclusion whether this is right or wrong, whether this is that, and whether this is this. So to analyze information and to form a judgment is critical thinking. So critical thinking skill helps you in identifying credible sources, evaluate and respond to the arguments, as if done in the judiciary. There are two parties between which the argument is going, and judge has to think critically to make a judgment. Assess the alternative viewpoints, test hypothesis against the relevant criteria. This is also helpful in doing the research. In the research, what is there? There is a question, and you have to answer that question by means of evidence. So you started looking for the evidences, you started searching for the articles and all, uh, and on the basis of those articles you assimilate information, then you start experimenting on the objective of your research. Now the process of thinking. So in the process of thinking, there are three things. One is propositional thought, one is imaginal thought. Propositional thought means when you start thinking, you may uh, start making words or sentences in your mind, or you may start imagining the things. So the process may be imaginal or propositional. So this is the mental imagery of, this is the example, a girl is imagining herself jogging in the morning. So this is a mental image which she is making in her mind. For example, if your friend has gone for some travel or to visit some place, and he started narrating his story of journey, then you may start imagining that environment in which you are not currently in. In the thinking, concept is you can have conceptualized thinking, like the concept of car. If someone says the object which has four wheels, a petrol engine, steering and seats, you started imagining a conceptual car, the thing as a whole, uh, not in its parts. Propositions. So thinking is not limited to images or words, but it is also an abstract. What is the underlying meaning of or relationship among the concepts? So if so, thinking thinking is not a passive act. We keep relating one concept to another concept to understand our world in a better way. So this is proposition. This is conceptualization of proposition. You have different ideas, you have different picture, and you make a assimilated picture of those ideas or those images. So let us sum up this lecture. There are four major cognitive processes: the attention, perception, learning, memory, and thinking. Attention is the process of getting an object or thought clearly before the mind. Perception, defined as a set of processes which help us to understand the world around us. And you have also learned about the Gestalt principle of organization of perception. You have learned about the classical conditioning, operant conditioning, observational learning, process of memory, and process of thinking. Thanks for patient listening. Thanks to all. If someone has query or question, one can ask.